Hi, my name is Ann, and I'm a member of the Coconino County Search and Rescue Unit, or SAR as we call it. SAR is a volunteer arm of the Sheriff's Office. The unit is made up of 2 SAR coordinators from the Sheriff's Department and over 100 members from every walk of life. This includes students, medical professionals, firefighters, paramedics, EMTs, riders, office managers, counselors, and retired pilots, just to name a few. We have members of all ages, ranging from their early 20s all the way up into their 80s, and with varying skills and experiences. SAR volunteers respond to missions 365 days of the year in any weather conditions, anywhere in Coconino County. Coconino County is the 2nd largest county in the United States. Missions range from searching for somebody who's lost to rescuing somebody who's injured. We can also help during disaster response, such as community evacuations when there are wildfires and law enforcement evidence searches. Just last year in 2020, SAR participated in 171 missions. Our unit also participates in providing preventative search and rescue, or PSAR, training and information throughout the community and county in hopes that we can help both adults and children make wise decisions and be better prepared when they're going outside. As a member of SAR, we have initial training when we first join and then participate in ongoing training to be mission ready. Today, Bob and John will be discussing 2 of these training areas and the science behind the technology we employ. John will be covering navigation, and Bob will be discussing communication. We hope you see how science, technology, engineering, and mathematics help us in what we do. As a note, the filming that you will be seeing today was done in compliance with the CDC and county COVID guidelines.
Thank you, Ann. So let's talk about technology in navigation. The point of navigation is threefold. First, to know where you are. Second, to know where you want to go. And third, know how to get there as efficiently and safely as possible. To do that, we need a big picture of the world. Now, each mission requires a unique picture because each mission is very different from the others. How does a mission start? Well, usually it's by somebody, calling on a cell phone saying that they're lost. It might be a friend or neighbor that they left information with saying they have not returned on time. Or it might be even a satellite device that sends an emergency signal down. When that happens, our first step is to get a map and start adding layers to it. The first set of layers are actually usually the USGS topographic maps. That gives us an idea of the contour of the land, where water is, where some of the major roads are. From there, we put in our own layer that looks at where was the person's place last seen, where were they going, what kind of trails were they going to be on, so we can start making this map very specific. Once we have this specific information loaded, then we look at the time that we're going out. For example, what's the weather going to be? And with our friends at the National Weather Service, they can give us point forecasts if the weather is very changeable, about what the weather is going to be when we arrive at a particular place, sometimes within a 15-minute or 30-minute window. There's automated sites, such as the SnowTel sites, that can tell us the current depth of the snow, how much water is in the snow, and a number of other things that help us figure out when we get there, what type of equipment and what type of process do we want to use. Satellite imagery, you're probably familiar with this from, let's say, Google satellite images. With satellite imagery, we not only get a basic picture of the land, but using different filters, we can understand the difference between different forms of vegetation. We can understand the difference even between a cloud and snow on the ground. Finally, during the fire season, we also use the GOES 17 fire detection satellites that not only tell us where fire is actively occurring, but where the smoke is. Overall, there's over 35 different types of imagery based on what we need for that specific mission that are available for us to make this map. So the map is good. Now, once you get into the field with that map, How are you going to navigate? What kind of technology do we use there? Well, believe it or not, even though it's centuries old, a map and compass is still one of our primary methods of navigation. With the compass, we have to be aware of a thing called magnetic declination. And to understand the difference between true north and the way our compass is pointing, our magnetic needle is pointing, we go online and use a series of websites to ensure that we have the declination correct, because we always want our compass, true north, to match our true north on the map. Secondly, we can download that same map we made into multiple different types of electronic devices. And that could be cell phones, or more appropriately for most SAR missions, into a standalone GPS. Now, the point of a GPS is that it's very good at telling you where you've been and where you currently are. The third thing is you still have to look around your environment. And to look around the environment at night, it really helps to have night vision available. Night vision can amplify the available light significantly and allow us to see ridge lines, allow us to see water courses, and a number of other things that aid in us being safe as we move from one place to another. But all of this technology about navigation doesn't occur in a vacuum. We work as a team. As a team, one of the things that we really need to do is be communicating consistently and constantly with our fellow searchers. To do that, we use a number of different technologies in communication, and that's what Bob's going to talk about now.
We use the electromagnetic spectrum. And on one end we have radio waves, and the other end we have X-rays and gamma rays way at the very high energy end. So let's talk about how we create a radio wave. We take a charged particle, let's call it an electron, and we move it up and down very rapidly and say, let's move it at 550,000 times a second. And that particle emanates radiation. So we have a wave of radiation going out. Now, if we're really smart, we'll put a piece of metal on top, connect that to that radiation. We'll have it at a certain length, and we're going to call that an antenna. So now we're broadcasting a carrier wave for radio. So we want to put a signal on that and create something called amplitude modulation radio, or AM radio. With a microphone, we can send a small electrical signal which will change slightly the amplitude of that carrier wave. And then we'll pick it up as an AM radio station. So I won't get into anything else more with radio, but to say basically, until I get into specifics of the devices we use, we're going to be worrying about or talking about the megahertz up to 1,000 times greater, 300 gigahertz. We use the upper end of satellite communications. So now let's talk about near the visible, but infrared. Infrared is nothing but heat. It's electromagnetic radiation. We have a sensor. It's called our skin. When we touch something hot or get near something hot, a skin sends signal to the pain sensor and said, ouch. Sensor is the skin. Move to the visible spectrum, we have eyes as our sensors. We can't see the infrared, can't see the ultraviolet, or we can see the visible. Light has a significant amount of energy. Early 60s, lasers just came out. Didn't know really what to do with them in my lab. I had a 10-watt laser put out in blue-green, and we just didn't know how to control or stabilize it. So I ended up burning holes in the ceiling of my lab, burning my lab shirt, burning off part of my fingernail. Not a safe place to be around lasers in those days. Times have changed. Let's move beyond the visible to the ultraviolet. Again, we can't see. Ultraviolet causes cataracts. It also causes our skin to tan. Again, skin's a great sensor. Beyond that, we have X-rays, higher frequency, higher energy. X-rays penetrate the skin, go through, we can see broken bones. Okay, now we've done through the science. Let's talk about some of the technology. Okay, We use basically both terrestrial and satellite technology. You're familiar very often, you use smartphones for a variety of reasons. We use smartphones as a backup at times to search and rescue radios. Our radios, our handhelds, in the VHF frequency range, good for missions, but again, sometimes we use smartphone as backup. Now let's talk about satellites. Satellite communications is usually in the gigahertz range. That's 1,000 megahertz. And they're used for various purposes, for locating people, for taking pictures, for looking at the growth, and also for national security. We have satellite phones. Communicate with a different type of satellite than the GPS, the Global Positioning System. The GPS is the US's version of the global navigation satellite system. Got a mind glitch there. Okay, but we also have satellite emergency notification beacons, and I'll wrap up my discussion with the emergency beacons. Let's look at smartphones. Smartphone carriers, be it Verizon, AT&T, Sprint, or any others, are assigned certain frequency bands. In this area, Verizon and AT&T have the predominant coverage. Good thing about the Federal Communications Commission's requirement is that if you're out, you're lost, you have an emergency, you need our help, you look at your cell phone, it says no service. The FCC has mandated that any carrier in the area where you are, even though you don't subscribe, must pick up your signal. It has the technology. So try it. You may be able to get through, and if you do get through, you'll hit dispatch with voice. We have what's called Phase 2 911, and we can pretty well predictably pick up your location. We've completed many missions just by having a person who we're in communications with, we have their coordinates, we see where they are on the GPS display, we tell them to start walking, we say no, make a 90-degree turn, we'll track you, and somebody will be meeting you on the trail in 20 minutes. Really powerful. Recently, we've gotten text 911. It's recent, it's not fully implemented, but instead of trying and unsuccessfully with the voice, go to your text messenger, put in 911, hit send, we will receive it, and the dispatch will be able to communicate with you. Again, depending where you are and our rollout, what happens is we can also get your GPS coordinates, and therefore we know where you are and can probably help you out, either moving to a safer place where we can get to you or getting medical to you much more quickly. We can also send you, with we have text, a message and a link that will tell you how to send your exact location to us with GPS. All smartphones today have GPS capability. Okay, so now let's move back to satellite, and we're going to talk about the global positioning system. Again, the U.S. is just one of the systems out there. We have 31 satellites circulating. Lifetime is 5 to 7 years. And we have spares up in orbit should something happen to one of the existing birds. Quick thing to know, sometimes you will use your cell phone and all the applications on that to track you and get your GPS signals. That sucks battery power really significantly. So if you try and use your smartphone, carry a spare battery, and always be sure before you ever go out that your cell phone is fully charged. Okay, away from the really esoteric stuff, let's go to the SAR radios. We use VHF radios. Generally, each radio puts out about 5 watts. The radios we use in the vehicles can go up to roughly 50 watts. On some channels, if we want to talk, say, to other search and rescue people in our team, we'll use what's called simplex, sends out on one frequency, my teammate will answer with another frequency, or rather the same frequency, and come back to me. Go over very long distances, we have to use a repeater. So it's still duplex communications. We call it, if we're in this general area, we'll dial up on our cell phone, or rather our SAR radios have 512 channels. We'll call up 2ATOM, which is the name of the tower up on Mount Eldon. And this tower is all over the county. So we'll go out on a 2ATOM frequency, it'll go up to the tower, come back down to say dispatch. Dispatch will answer it and do what it needs to do, sends out a signal on a different frequency to you, and we will receive that signal. Critical to know that there are areas in the county where we cannot get good cell phone coverage. If you're in a slot canyon, you can't get it. Radio waves will go up, they go down, but they're quickly absorbed by the earth. Same thing happens with your smartphone. If you're in a canyon, you're not going to get good coverage. Most people don't realize that if they have a problem, they're on the side of the mountain, the smartest thing if they want to get cell phone coverage is to go up, not down. Okay, we're almost there. So now let's talk about satellite phones. Expensive, about $2,000. You need an annual subscription. They use two different types of satellites. Communication satellites for the voice, and the GPS satellites for the location. Same problem. If you have a sat phone, you're in a canyon, you don't have a good view of the sky, likely it won't work.
Hello, I'm Jerry. As you have learned, two of our training areas and the science behind the technology we employ are navigation and communications. We discussed using science, technology, engineering, and mathematics to help us with what we do and to do it the best that we can. Whether it is a simple call to 911 or someone triggering an alert through a satellite-enabled device. Even if a call comes from a cell phone, we can often find the general area it is coming from because we understand how the equipment works and the science and technology behind it. For navigation, we then refer to our maps. These also help us to plan our missions. They aid us in determining the type of ground we will need to cover, what type of weather we might expect, and even how to plan for the equipment we might need to use. Equipment such as the type of clothing to wear and what we need to use for a mission such as a boat, ski, snowmobile, climbing gear, or so many of the other tools that we use. No matter how experienced we may be, we will always follow the same rules that we teach you. We go out as teams, never go alone, and always wear bright colors such as our yellow uniform shirts. We are always prepared in case any emergencies come across while we are on a mission. We keep equipment and tracking equipment with us such as GPS, communication radios, compass, and a map. Most importantly, we always practice how to use and understand every navigation and communication tool we carry. When you go out, we hope you too are as prepared as possible. Wear the proper clothing, never go alone, and take the proper gear and know how to use it.